Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 15 of the Wolves Report. Hope you liked the introduction. Someone said we need an intro, so there you go. Hope you liked it. As usual, we're joined by Mark Knock, aka the Butcher, and Mr. Misery Guts himself, Chris Tyler. Today, we're going to be talking about Man City, Brighton, Romain Saiss, Adama, more love for the defence, taking your questions and looking ahead to Chelsea. So let's take a few steps back first. I know obviously we're excited about last night and delighted with a clean sheet and a win, but let's talk a little bit about Man City and the game. I don't want to go too deep because the hour flies by as usual. So let's talk about that Man City game. First of all, obviously, we probably, on the balance of play, lost the game. That's probably about right. But you can't help but feel hard done by in terms of a little bit with Raul's first yellow card, but particularly the penalty. So let's talk about the penalty first. Tyler, kick us off on VAR on that penalty.
You said I can't take the whole hour, no?
No.
About VAR and just a disgrace, like just an utter shambles. I mean, for me, you can always tell by the player's reaction, can't you? You know, the player knows if they've handled it or if they've fouled someone. You can tell by the face, and Martinho knew straight away he'd not handled that ball. It was clear. I was at the game, and it seemed, maybe because I was there was a delay, but it seemed he only really gave it because the City crowd asked for it, to be honest. And then for them to not have a look at it is the bit I don't understand. For them to not tell the referee just to go and have a look at the monitor. And it might be the fact that, you know, John Moss was blowing a bit by then, so he probably couldn't have got to the monitor and back. But that's the bit that hurt me the most. And then you're sort of at the game and you're on, you know, you're checking your Twitter and your social media, and it's just full of people and ex-pros and people saying it's just not a penalty and what's happening to the game of football. So I think it was just a whole series of cock-ups, basically, from this Premier League establishment that we find ourselves in. But the bit that hurt the most was not asking him to go and have a look at the monitor. And I think if he had done, he may well have changed his mind. What's the point of having it? Why is the monitor there if the referee's not going to?
Yeah, I mean,
that's the bit I just can't get my head around.
The fact it blatantly wasn't a penalty, and the only people agreeing with them. I mean, I heard the guy who came on and talked and said, well, you've got to understand they're under a lot of pressure. No, I don't understand, because you've got the technology to get these decisions right. You can't give a handball on a whim. It might be. And then when it's clearly hit under his ribs, Knocker, take over quickly before I explode.
It's just never been a penalty, has it? It's just never been a penalty. I mean, it hits him on the rib cage. If there's any contact on the arm at all, it's the sleeve, which is allowed. But for me, there's no contact. I haven't seen one replay that says to me that that's a penalty. I've not seen one replay that says it contacts the arm. And as you said, Chris, just go and have a look. Just go over to the monitor and have a look. That's the whole point of having it. They'll go over and check a red card. They'll go over and check a 50-50, but he won't look at a decision like that. I mean, it's hard enough going to Man City, but when you've got that against you, you know, I just think it's just ridiculous. I mean, I've never been a fan of VAR, but things like that can almost win me around a little bit, because if he makes that decision at the spur of the moment, you can see why maybe he thinks it's a penalty. It's fast paced, it's moving, he's not up with play, but the ball hits him on an area that could be the arm. So okay, let's have a look at VAR. VAR step in. No, it's at his rib cage. Exactly. It's not a penalty. Or going out, you might want to go and have a look at that. We're not 100%. Change their mind. It wins a little bit of credibility back for VAR, doesn't it? But they just did nothing. They just completely ignored the decision. And the frustrating thing is as well, I 100% guarantee the other end, at very least, he goes and have a look, or he doesn't give the penalty at all. Because there is just such a bias. There's such a gap in terms of the way the referees treat teams like us and teams like Man City and Chelsea. And you can see it because they're on first-name basis with the players. You can see them laughing and joking with them. And a decision like that just stinks to high heaven that they've given that. And they've not even given themselves an opportunity to redeem it and say, you know what? No, I think we've got this one wrong.
Well, for me, I like VAR. I just think it's being used terribly. I mean, we saw at the last tournament in the summer that it was used quite well, and we were like, wow, these referees are pretty good, and they're using it how it should be. For me, I am sick to death of the clear and obvious. I feel it's been used to back your mates up, and they don't want to call them out. I don't care if it's clear and obvious. I'm interested. Was it a penalty? Yes or no? Was it a red card? Yes or no? For that's all I'm interested in. I don't care if he was blindsided. It might not be an obvious error, because that's not real rules. You're then giving some doubt, and you can say, well, it wasn't quite obvious to the referee. I don't care if it's obvious. It should be very black and white. Was it a penalty, yes or no? Well, look at the monitor. Was it 100% a penalty? No. They're absolutely using this, in my opinion, as a tool, it feels like, to back up their colleagues, and they don't want to call them out. And it is infuriating that a decision like that, because you know what, we went there, we've had a bit of stick off Pep and a few people, but what do you want us to do? Go to toe, get our pants pulled down and lose 7-0 like Leeds? Ridiculous. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying we'd have held on for a point, because you know what, it would have been hard, but those lads, 2 weeks in the bounce, it was gallant, it was brave. I actually thought we were better against Man City than we were against Liverpool. And even with that Max Kilman run at the end, I mean, imagine the scenes in the wind if that goes in. I mean, it would have been crazy. But I feel there's a real sour taste in my mouth from that game. I mean, granted, we've won last night and that was great, but you just can't help but feel. And who gets to ask questions? Who gets to question that? How are they justifying those decisions, Tyler? How can that carry on? Go on, Knocker. Go on, Ela.
I think, you know what it is? There's such an arrogance about our officials. There's such an arrogance that they are beyond question. I mean, he's got Mossy engraved on his boots, for Christ's sake. You're a referee. You know, they're more like superstars now. They've all got agents, and there's this real arrogance that we are right. Don't question us. And there's a reason our officials aren't getting the big games in tournaments now, and they're not getting the World Cup finals and things like that, because it is such a poor standard. I mean, for a referee to be in that kind of shape for a professional top-level football match, for me, is a disgrace. And even if they're, mate, I'll do him in a race. Don't worry about that. But if we've got, the referees now, there's no culpability, there's no interview afterwards, there's no why did you make that decision? And if they do get caught out on something, they get relegated to the Championship. Why? Championship's no less important than it's no less important than the Premier League. So for me,
Saturday night, didn't we, Ryan, quickly? And again, the guy last night, I think I mentioned it briefly on Saturday when we did the Twitter feed, Ryan. And the guy last night, it was his first Premier League game, and similar to the referee we had at Burnley, he was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the referee. I mean,
he hasn't got to the stage.
Yeah, he had a good game.
He's not mates with the players. He's not got an ego. He refereed. I know he had his technical issues, and he can't do anything about that. But he refereed that game, I thought, superbly, as did the guy making his debut for Burnley. So maybe the referees are out there, Knock. But like Ryan says, we're left with the old boys club still of Mike Riley and his mates, and that's what we're all working with. And you hit the nail on the head, Ryan. The technology works. It's the clowns that are using the technology that are the problem. I'm
all for the technology. I think anything that can help the sport be fairer. We want a level playing field. We want equality. Yes, more teams, the big teams are going to have more money and more sponsorships. That's fine. But on the pitch, during the game time, we want equality. And we haven't got that. I mean, I don't want to sound sad, but you go back to the Pogba. If that's the tackle on Neves, if that's the other way around, all right, that goal's been disallowed. No question about it. And like those decisions happen. And I know Nuno had a bust up. I don't know if it was with John Moss. Was it a couple of years ago? Was it with John Moss or someone else? And it just feels like then it's not been going our way. But you know what? You've got to do enough to win the game yourself without relying on a refereeing decision. But what you do expect is to be treated fairly. Quick hello from Hydrogen. He's God. Hello, guys. Great content. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying it. 8 minutes in. Hope you hear the whole show. Thanks for that. Thanks for
liking that bit.
Yeah. Thanks for
turn it off now, then, son. That's job done.
It doesn't get any better, mate.
No, we've peaked.
Just briefly to go on to what happened with Raul. Now, I think there'll be no one more gutted and more aware that they messed up than Raul was. Now, legendary status at Wolves, the best 9 we've seen at the club. Absolutely brilliant. The first one I thought was a desperately unlucky challenge to get a yellow card. I mean, you've seen some of the tackles going around over the weekend in games. It's never a yellow card. He couldn't wait. No. The second one, though, he knows he's had a flash, hasn't he? So he's only got himself to blame there. But look, excuse me. Luckily, it didn't cost us at Brighton. So thoughts on Raul before we move on to Brighton?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the first tackle was never a yellow card, as you said, but he's stupid after that. But even so, I mean, he blocks it. Would it avert the referee maybe just to pull him to one side and say, come on, son, no more of that, or you'll be off.
You couldn't wait, though, could he?
You couldn't wait. You're talking 48 seconds or something like that between both decisions. Raul's still fired up. He's been booked for nothing, really. So he's all wound up. He's frustrated. Yeah, he's stupid. I mean, he's absolutely stupid. And he's cost him even more, really, because when you look at Brighton's defensive problems last night, he would have had a real opportunity to get himself on the score sheet yesterday. But I just think the referee could have handled that a bit differently. He's within his rights to send him off, no question about it. But for me, just pull him to one side, say, come on, son, knock it off or you'll be off the pitch, rather than put us in a difficult situation, into almost an impossible situation, trying to defend that with 10 men, because it was, we all knew it was game over at that point.
I just felt like he couldn't wait. I mean,
he couldn't wait.
It's impossible to say, and you can't read into anyone's mind, but you just felt like he couldn't wait to give the penalty. And you just feel like that never happens to us. And look, again, I'm saying like I'm moaning about, we're not getting fair and you should do enough to win the game yourself. But again, equality, I don't think that happens to other clubs. I really don't. Anything else to say on that, Tyler, before we move on to some fun stuff?
Again, the first booking was purely because he just booked 2 Man City players.
Yeah,
that was literally the only reason he booked him. It's dubious for me if it's even a foul. He clearly gets contact on the ball. Yeah, he might go through the player a little bit to get to the ball.
They're grappling before, and he's got his hand on him. But I mean, we've seen Zaha on Sunday put his hand in someone's face. It's not even a yellow card. There's not even. I know someone was debating with me on Twitter that it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, but the offence is far worse. In the letter of the law, if you put a hand in someone's face, it's a red card. Now, I'm all up for a bit of needle during the game. It gets the crowd going, and you want a bit of passion. But if in one game you're putting a tackle after a grapple and getting booked, and the other one's a hand in the face, where's the consistency? Yeah. How can you live when it's like that?
With the VAR thing, there's no level playing field, and there still isn't. Is there? Could we move on from John Moss, please?
Just one thing before we go, then, mate. Let's see if it's happy. Were your prawn sandwiches okay on Saturday, Chris?
Yeah, it was nice. Nice seafood at half time, full time. No port to go with it though. I thought, where's the port?
You can't
have everything.
Middle class problems. This is
me and the butcher roughing it out, and you there with your cheese and biscuits.
I was sat with the Wolves fans. To be fair, it was only pre-game.
Don't try and act like you're one of us, son. Don't try and act like you're one of us.
Deary me.
In the boardroom, and
could have done with you there, Knocker. They could have done with some bacon and sausage on, to be fair.
I'd be happy to help.
Let's move on to last night then. So lots to talk about with last night. Now, I'm sure you guys were like me. For the first 45 and a half minutes, I didn't like what I was watching. I thought I knew what was coming. I think we sort of felt the way before the game when we were talking that it was going to be like that. There was not a lot of positivity. We couldn't believe we'd left Adama out. And it looked quite ugly, but one moment of absolute magic. I mean, it looks a simple pass, but to have the vision and the touch, the weight and the precision to drop that pass over, and then the Saiss finish. I mean, it's a great goal. I'm delighted with the win. So, initial thoughts on last night, Chris?
Yeah, I think you're right. It was a moment of magic just at the right time as well, wasn't it? Just before half time, it probably put a bit of a boot in to Brighton, and then second half, we came out and played a bit more how we'd like us to play. I mean, the pass is a joke, isn't it? I mean, he's seen the pass before Saiss. Saiss isn't even almost like looking for it, or he's not even really ready for it. And by the time it gets to Saiss, you can see the keeper. The keeper's thinking, "Oh, where's this come from?" I think it was just an absolute piece of magic. And Saiss's finish was tremendous, wasn't it? He's got a knack for finding a goal, hasn't he? And he could have had one in the second half when he hit the post. But yeah, I echo what you say, Ryan. No one thought it would be a goal fest. I was surprised that Adama didn't start. I thought, they're missing their first choice defence, basically. So I thought he had to play. And I don't know if the Frank injury was a bit of a blessing in disguise at that point. So I think
it felt like it.
Dynamics. And certainly second half, we saw the best of Adama. But no, to go back to the game in general, for me, it was just about getting 3 points yesterday. I sometimes sit here and say, we don't attack or we don't score enough. But for me, after losing against the big two, which you expected to, drawing against Burnley and Norwich, Chelsea coming up, it's a tough month, isn't it? So I think just to get 3 points last night was the main thing. And another clean sheet. I'll let, Knocker wax about the back three. But yeah, we look solid, don't we? We're hard to break down and we're hard to score past.
Before we go I know we've got one section talking about the back three and a little bit more in detail to that, but just talking about the game itself, Knocker, the way we started the second half, it was like that goal, it was like a weight off our shoulders and the team looked like a different team. That first 15, 20 minutes of the second half, the game could have been 2 or 3-0. The chances, Adama, Podence, we looked like a different side. So that it almost looked like they were so desperate to score that goal, the weight came off and it was like, it was signs of early season again, wasn't it, for that first 15, 20 minutes in the second half?
Yeah, but it's a representation of the problems we've had, isn't it? Because we should have killed the game off. I mean, by 60 minutes, the game should have been dead and buried. We should have been cruising. It would have been nice and comfortable. Going back to the lineup, I couldn't understand Trincao starting. Couldn't understand him starting over Adama. I felt that the lineup was almost a little bit cowardly. I thought it was a little bit, let's make sure we don't lose the game. And you're up against a team who've, lost 3 of the back 4. They've lost their main striker. It was a game that we really could have took it to them, I think, and tried to blitz them a bit. But, is it tactics or is it that we're low on confidence because we scored 1 goal in, 6 games prior to that? So it was important we didn't lose. But I think with the fixtures we had coming up, it's one that we really needed to win as well. So first half, really poor, but an outstanding goal off the back of an awful set piece.
Terrible
the ball
corner.
in from the ball in from Raul, I thought from Neves was absolutely sensational. And I think you're being a bit harsh on Saiss there, Chris. I think he's anticipated that. He'd had a lot of the Villa goal about it for me because he's kept himself on side and then he's broke. And the finish on his weaker foot, I think that's an exceptional finish for a centre half to do that.
I think Neves has just seen it before anybody else.
I'll just say that.
Like Saiss did everything really well. But if you look at the keeper hasn't got a clue what's going on.
No,
nobody was expecting it. Well, I meant to say Saiss wasn't really expecting it.
You're expecting the shot, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we all expected the shot to go into the top of the stand or dribble to the keeper because he's not had his shooting boots on. I think it was Josh Power from Wolves put a still on. I don't know if any of you guys put the still about the moment Neves was about to make the pass. That pass isn't even on when it's still. I'm like, you couldn't even see it then. It was, how do you see it then? There's like 6 defenders. Saiss is well onside by a yard or 2, and he's found that lofty pass, and it was not quite the same. But do you remember the ball at Villa? He put Podence in wide. Yeah, the ball, that vision there and that touch, it's just absolutely sensational. I mean, it was such a great. As a goal, I mean, it looks simple, but that goal probably doesn't get enough credit for how good it was.
It's all right seeing the pass, but you've got to execute it, haven't you? Because there's absolutely no margin for error. If he doesn't get enough on it, the defender clears it too much. It's out for a goal kick.
The touch is just the weight is sensational.
Oh, it's perfect. He's just floated it, hasn't he? And Saiss has still got a lot to do on his weaker foot. But I mean, I just don't know how you see a pass like that. It's absolutely incredible. We're all thinking he's going to get it out of his feet and he's going to crack one towards the top corner and see what happens. But he knew exactly what he was doing. From the second the ball at his feet, he knew exactly where he was going to put that. And Saiss gets himself onside, darts back in front, bang, 1-0. I was really impressed with the goal in particular. Highlight of the first half without a doubt.
Well, it was the only highlight of the first half, wasn't it, really? We hadn't done
pretty
anything.
Much, yeah.
And I mean, I don't mean to sound like jump on top of what you said, be disrespectful to Hwang, but I actually thought it suited Wolves with Adama on the pitch. I was really surprised he didn't start. I thought he'd put a lot of work in the last 2 games, got a couple of players booked in those games, playing against an impossible task. I thought he was unlucky against Burnley. And I just felt like he's been a bit like the fall guy recently in terms of subbed and being dropped and stuff like that. But yeah, good. Just jump onto a comment from Sean. The ball was like the one he did to Bolly in the last minute of Besiktas. He loves that pass, doesn't he? He loves that sort of sitting around 20, 25 yards out, take a touch. I mean, the Podence ball at Villa, like you said then, Sean, the ball at Besiktas. I think we won 2-0 at Man City a few days after that as well. Neves absolutely loves that ball. Right then, time for some love. I mean, we talked about him briefly then. Let's talk about Romain Saiss. We talked about his goals, but we've talked to him about being a part of the back 3 this season. But this guy now for Wolves, he's in the form of his life. I know he was the season we got promoted. Him and Neves were centre midfield partnership. It was good. No one got near them the whole season. But he's moved now to the left of a back 3. I think he plays left centre back or left of a 3 for Morocco, captain as well. So, Tyler, tell me about Romain Saiss's form this season.
Yeah, I think he's all right, isn't he? I think
he's all right.
He's one of those that will never grab the attention, or he's never going to win the player of the season, is he? But I think since he joined the club, has he ever really let Wolves down? He's probably had a couple of dodgy games where he's come in for a bit of stick, and he's got the reputation about being a bit rash. And I think last season everyone was putting money on him to be booked where it was just a given that he was going to get booked. But he just seems to have sort of matured a bit and calmed down a little bit, and he's not flying into tackles, and he's not just pulling people back for the fun of it. He's not being as rash as he used to be, and I don't know, maybe Bruno and his coaching staff, need some credit for that. But I think he complements the back 3 quite well. He's aggressive, like you say, Ryan. He's always trying to get in front of the striker. He brings the natural balance with his left foot. Admittedly, that means Max has to play the other side, but Max seems comfortable with that. He chips in with important goals now and again. You know, he scored quite a few goals for us, and he was unlucky not to have another one with the great volley last night.
Very unlucky, yeah.
I think we just need to, get him tied up on a new contract because, even if he's not in the team, he's a great player to have in your squad, isn't he? He can fill positions defensively in midfield. He seems a bit of a character, doesn't he? A bit of a joker. I think he needs a new deal and he needs to be snapped up, really. I think he's earned one. Yeah, I haven't got a bad word to say about him this season, really.
As Mr. Miserable's built a good foundation there, Butcher. How can you top that?
No, I completely echo everything he said, really. I think he's very much in the Connor Cody mould where he's really evolved his game this season. I think we've had a conversation maybe the end of last season, start of this season, where we all thought we needed to upgrade both of those players. It'd be Saiss and Cody that we really needed to upgrade. Whereas now I think, is there a better defensive unit in the Premier League at the moment than them lot? And I mean, there are teams who've conceded less goals than us, but when you look at what they've got in front of them and the fact that it's very rare a team actually get at their back line, it's hard to think there's a better unit. I'm not saying individual players, but a better unit in the division at the moment because they know exactly what they're going to do. They know exactly each of the strengths and weaknesses. They know where they're going to be. They can all distribute from the back. Max Kilman can take you up the pitch with his runs. Cody can hit 40, 50-yard balls. And Saiss as well, I mean, there was a moment in the first half where the ball's dropping into the area and maybe last season he's a bit rash and flattens someone, whereas he takes a touch to beat the first defender and then in the same movement plays it out to the wing back and we're away again. So he's not getting booked anymore. He's not flying in tackles anymore. He's controlling what he's doing. And yeah, I'm completely with Tyler on this one. He's get him signed up as quickly as possible because not a player I wanted to lose now. And I don't think it's a case of keeping him in the squad, which is where maybe he was heading. I think now he's definitely earned his place. He's earned his shirt, and that back three now, that's the way we've got to be looking for the future.
Well, I mean, I've been very much an advocate of going to four at the back, but when they defend like this and then they play that 15, 20 minutes they did at the start of the second half, then you're okay with wing-backs then, aren't you? But just going back onto Saiss, I mean, echoing what you boys have said, he seems more composed. He thinks about the game more. He's not panicking. He's not rash with his passing. I mean, as you said, Tyler, he's got the balance of being left-footed. If there's no ball on, then because he's left-footed, he can whip a ball down the line. That ball is on every time. If we're under pressure, we can whip the ball down the line. You haven't got to be. If the intricate passes are on and we can't play it out, I mean, I think he's been really consistent, and the turnaround, not a turnaround because he's been bad, but the improvement in Wolves and in him this season, he thoroughly deserves another 2 or 3 year deal. I mean, I think he's 30, 31 now. That's not particularly old for a footballer these days. He looks like he's getting better now. I would say in terms of his peak now, he's peaking for Wolves. So does he deserve a new deal? I think we get that done ASAP because he looks really good. On a free transfer, there'll be plenty of sides looking at him. But again, credit to Bruno and the staff. He's not the only defender that's improved this season. Definitely. I mean, Aït-Nouri, we was unlucky to lose him before the game, but Marcel looked good. They all did well. So, yeah, I mean, I think Saiss deserves a little bit of credit. We've not really talked to him about it much. He's sort of someone that sort of passed us by, but a massive reason why Wolves have got so many clean sheets and they look so solid. So, hopefully he gets that new deal and continues these performances. So, yeah, fantastic. A little bit more love then. Let's talk about Adama Traore. I don't think ever since I've been supporting Wolves has a player split the fan base. And I'm not saying it's 50-50, but has a player ever split the fan base like Adama Traore? I mean, in some games we've seen the very worst of him, but he was the one player that sort of offered a little bit against Man City and Liverpool. The one guy that was getting their players booked because he was carrying the ball. As you mentioned, the couple of early bookings in the game at Man City that he'd done damage to a few of their players. But last night, I thought in the second half, he was excellent. I know Knocker wasn't so keen earlier on. He should have a little bit more, but we're on here to debate. But I thought last night, Adama was a big difference in the sides and he was excellent. So we'll start off with you on this one, Knocker.
I thought he was really good. I just think there's just little moments to his game. I think when we're breaking and we've got Podence and Adama against one defender, I just want to see that pass go the other side of the defender. I just think it gives Podence something to run onto and hit it rather than it coming into his feet behind the defender, gives the defender a chance to reset. But that's minor really. I think the ball he put in for Trincao was good. The finish, couldn't do a great deal more from that angle. But no, I think he was sensational. He gets you up the pitch. He invites tackles. He drops you your opposition 10 yards further back. And he played really well. He's in my 11 every week,
I think
without
so.
a question, because of what he brings and what he offers, and that element of danger that he's got. The defence is just never sure what he's going to do, because I don't think he knows himself what he's going to do.
We don't know.
No, you haven't got a clue. So he just gives you that little bit of something different. And if he's going to sign a new deal, great. If he's not going to sign a new deal, I'm still playing him right up to the point where he goes, because Trincao came on. He tried, he worked hard, but there's 2 or 3 times in that first half he gave the ball away. A couple of times he puts us under pressure. And I think Adama gets a lot of stick. And I don't think he does that anymore. I don't remember the last time he actually put us in trouble with a sloppy pass. He's always on the front foot. He's always getting us up the field. So for me, I thought he had a really good game. Saiss was man of the match without question, but I think Adama was pretty close behind him.
Tyler?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I thought it was one of his better games without sort of not standing out like he does, but we'll often pick it up on the edge of our box and run to the edge of the opposition's box and that sort of thing. Oh, he's playing well, but it seemed a more sort of reserved, composed performance, and he was better for it. Like, all we've asked for him to do is pass the ball at the right time to the right person, and I thought he did that last night on those 2 occasions, playing in Trincao and Podence, like you say. I do still think there's a hell of a lot more to come from him.
Yeah.
I do still think he can get involved in the game a bit more. I do think he can. Someone put it on Twitter, it was a good point. Sort of look for the ball a bit more. He sort of just seems to stand still in the same position, waiting for a pass to come right to his feet, and then he'll sort of go off sprinting. Where if he was a bit cleverer, like a Podence, for example, and found the little pockets and found the little areas of the pitch, I think it would just help his game even more. But I really thought his performance was good last night, one of the better ones, without being, like I said, a standout one, because he played it right and he played it a bit safe, but it worked, and that's all we can ask from him. Play the player in at the right time. He can't do anything about that if the player misses. That's not he's done his job there. He's broke. He's played the person in. That's his job done. And the assists will start to come, if he keeps doing it. I thought he was good.
Yeah, in terms of, I agree what you guys are saying. I know we're all fans, certainly Adama fans on here. I thought in terms of his short game, the little touches, the passes, I thought it was all really good. It wasn't spectacular, but the one that he hit a diagonal sort of through ball to Semedo as well in the second half that cut the defence in half. Semedo's run was great and he's read it. We've not really seen that from Adama. And he's put, even it's a simple pass, but the little through ball into Podence, I was really, really impressed. He was doing the simple things. Don't get me wrong, through balls aren't simple, but the weight of his passes were good. The decision making was good. There was a couple of little flicks on the edge of the box. I thought it was a great game from him. Like you said, without being overly explosive and dominating with his pace, he actually played some decent football last night. And if Wolves can get Adama to play like that, he'll be one of the first names on the team sheet. It was like, wow, that was really good. Now, the sinister side of me was saying, is this a man now that's playing for a move in January, or are we finally starting to see him tidy up his short game and like the simple stuff that would really help him progress? So either way, it's great to have Adama playing the simple stuff really well.
I think the penny might have hopefully dropped with him. He spent a lot of time on the bench and he's watched people like Trincao, Hwang, Podence start matches in front of him. And he almost played a bit like those guys last night where, like I said, he played the ball at the right time. He didn't just pick it up, get his head down and run. So hopefully the penny's dropped now. I was thinking, okay, well, does he need to adapt his game a little bit to get into the team and to be, Bruno's preferred option? Or is it, again, the coaching is, now making him a better player? But it was a much improved performance from him. Like I said, Ron, it wasn't one of his explosive ones, but his gameplay and his passing and his stats would have been good, I think.
I got the impression that maybe he got a bit of a rocket after the Burnley game when he should have squared it. And I think maybe he's had a little look at it and they've made those alterations, because another day when he's one-on-one with Dan Burn, he skips past him and he has a blast at goal. And you could just see that he was in his head. He was never, ever going to shoot in that situation. He was always going to pass it. The option was never there for him to shoot. And I think he's just trying to bring that into his game now. And like you say, it's not his fault if the other players aren't finishing the chances. But if he's angling for a move, it benefits us either way, because if he plays well between now and the window and we win a couple of games, then great, it puts a few more millions on his price tag. Whereas if he's hopeless and he's doing nothing, you're going to struggle to get the fee you want for him, aren't you? So I think we're all resigned to the fact that he's going to go. I think if he was going to sign, he would have signed by now. But if he's if he's a superstar between now and the point that he moves, then you get no complaints from me.
A couple of comments. This is quite funny, actually. Fans saying, "No, why didn't Adama run with the ball?" You're going to get that, aren't you? People are going to say, no matter what decision he does, because it's Adama. But you know what? I mean, like you said, another night he could potentially skip past Dan Burn and have a go himself. But I think he made the right decision. If anything, I thought Podence should have taken a touch, cut inside Dan Burn, because he would have bought the yard and then shoot. But as you said, guys, Adama can only set up his teammate. He can only do that. It's not his job to finish. So he could have had 2 assists last night again, and I think he's been lucky with it as well. Something else on Adama. Even if Adama this is Sean Mitchell. Even if Adama is not playing well, he still draws at least 2 defenders because they're scared of him. And this is, there's another one I'm going to talk about in a minute. But that's a really good point. Even if he's not playing well, it's the fear factor, and I think that cost Wolves. Potentially cost Wolves at Leeds, and it cost Wolves at Liverpool. No, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but taking that threat off and allowing the opponents to play even higher up, it's a no-brainer for me. I mean, I thought he was subbed at Man City because he was starting at Brighton. He was resting him, but what do I know?
Fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he never should have been taken off in that game. He was causing problems. As I say, for me, he's on the pitch from the first minute to the last minute. I just don't. If you're winning a game, he gives you something to break when the opposition are pushing you back. If you're losing a game, he gives you a chance to run down and get yourself up the pitch. I just don't see any reason why you'd want to be bringing him off unless you've got a glut of games coming up in a short period of time. For me, he just plays. He's good enough to be in that team and staying in that team as far as I'm concerned.
Some interesting points from Vic. I like Adama, but why are there calls for him to play no matter what and get brought off and not get brought off in games? He surely has been given enough to warrant that, but he can force us to play, hit and hope. And in terms of, I get what you're saying, Vic, on that, but in terms of, I thought the sub at Leeds, we had no threat after he went off. I thought the game against Liverpool, it's basically you're allowing then Van Dijk to come forward and get involved. I just think he can be subbed. Any player can be subbed if they're not playing well. I just think the particular timing of those subs in those games wasn't what I would have done. And many fans have talked about it. So I don't think he should start every game if he's not ready. And I don't think he should be kept on every game. I just think it's the timing at the moment. And I feel like there've been some poor decisions regarding that. So any guys got to add on that from what Vic said?
Yeah, great. I totally agree, Ryan. And let's be honest, Bruno's not scared to drop him, is he? Bruno's dropped him for games. He spent a lot of time on the bench. Bruno's happy to pull him off or drag him off if he sees something different. So we're not saying to give him preferential treatment or anything, but like you've both said, in tight games, when he's on the pitch, we've always got a bit of a chance. But I do think there is an argument that sometimes we play better when he's not in the team. We do to keep the ball more of a unit going forward, and we do play differently. But that's what I was sort of saying. I think the penny might have dropped a little bit because he played like that last night. He made the right decisions and he played a bit more Podence-like almost. He didn't just get the ball down and run. So I agree with you, Ryan. But if Bruno's obviously not bothered about dropping him or bringing him off, and it's only his opinion that counts at the end of the day.
Absolutely. A couple of more comments coming in. Sean, he carries the threat away from the defence, which he does. He just backing up what you said then, Tyler. When you're in a situation in a game and there's a percentage ball, it's a high percentage ball if you've got Adama, if you're hitting the ball into the space, and it's that threat that will allow you to play higher up. So I like him in the side. But what I would say to what Vic said earlier on, the game, and I think you said as well, the game against West Ham was probably the best we played as a team this season, and it didn't involve Adama. And so we can do it. There is sort of horses for courses, as the saying goes. So he's not like he shouldn't be in every week, but it's up to the manager. But what I would say is I don't think he's been used well in terms of when he's taken off. I mean, I think he should have started last night, and I think Wolves were better for him in the side. Huang's unlucky, but I think Wolves are better for it.
I get Vic's point. I do get Vic's point entirely, but for me, if you're looking at it outside looking in, if you're an opposition defender and you're looking at Wolves, do you want to face Adama or do you want to face Podence, Huang, Trincao?
I want to face Trincao if I'm against Wolves.
because in your head then, because psychologically, it's almost like the Mike Tyson situation, isn't it? You've lost the fight before you've got into it because you know you're on the back foot. You know he's going to put you under pressure. Your game's going to alter naturally because you're facing someone who can rip you apart from a standing position or rip you apart from a sprint. So I think that I understand what he's saying, but for me, he plays because of the danger he brings. Even without touching the ball, opposition are manoeuvring their players around. Even the best teams, your Liverpools and your Man Cities, are catering for Adama Traore. So if he's got that level of impact, for me, he's got to start games as far as I'm concerned. But I do understand what Vic's saying. I can see the point.
There's some good backwards and forwards here. Sean again says, think about the games like Everton and Newcastle were deeper and deeper, got away with it. He would have moved us at the pitch. I totally agree. And I think that was the case at Leeds. I mean, I was at Leeds with Tyler and we couldn't believe he'd gone off. There was no outball. There's no escape. Raul was there by himself, dominated by two centre-backs. With him on the halfway line, it sounds like Sunday football stuff. It's really basic. If he's there, that outball is always there. You're not going to leave him one-on-one with anybody. And then just reversing back, there's some good backwards and forwards there. Vic, Leeds, Liverpool, etc. Adama was on the pitch majority of the game and was poor. Yes, we were poor and he was poor. But I think the thing is, Vic, in terms of threat, as we're saying, it's just the presence for me. I mean, like I said, it's just three blokes on a podcast. You might be right, we might be right, but my opinion is I just like him on there in games when we're under pressure. We've got an outball then because he's somebody that teams are afraid of. Some of the best defenders, like Andy Robertson, are terrified. They hate playing against him. So we want to keep him on the pitch as that threat. That's just my opinion. But this is good backwards and forwards anyway because we're not all on here to agree. But just finishing off on the Adama, we're 36 minutes in so far. It'll raise his head again now. His contract's up in 18 months' time. This time next year, he can sign a pre-contract agreement with a foreign club. So where do Wolves stand now? He's shown a little bit of form in last night. Where do Wolves stand? What's it going to take? Me personally, if he plays like last night, give him the 100 grand. I want him in. I want him part of the plans. But would that have happened by now? And are Wolves going to be forced to sell in January? Butcher?
I don't think it's an issue of Wolves not offering the money.
Love calling you Butcher.
I just don't think he wants to sign that deal. I can't believe for a second Wolves wouldn't have offered him what he wanted. So I think he's kind of already made his mind up. The worry for me is we know financially we're not in a particularly good place in terms of transfers. So I mean, my head says you keep him and then you just let him go for free in another sort of 18 months. I don't see us doing that. I think that if that's going to be our transfer budget, we're almost going to be kind of forced to sell him to try and reinforce on the back of that, because I don't see for the next couple of seasons Wolves really going out and spending a great deal of money. So we're going to have to sell players. The risk for me is we've lost Jota, we'll lose Adama. If you're a Ruben Neves, do you want to keep finishing kind of bottom half of the table? Are we going to put ourselves in a position where we're almost forcing our superstars out? If we want to build something here, we need to be trying to keep our better players. And I'd love to think that Adama would stay. I just don't think so. I think if someone comes in with somewhere upwards of 25, 30 million in this window, I do believe Wolves will take that, because I think they'll just want to get that they won't want him to depreciate any further. I think they'll want that money in the bank so they can give that to Bruno and say, right, you can go and spend a bit of cash on it.
Just jumping in, Mr. C, you started all this, so this is your work.
He was blocked.
I thought, no, I've let him back in, mate. He's got nicknames. We all need some nicknames. We'll have to play guess Tyler's job next. Bearing in mind Tyler's 6'15".
Well, guess what the C stands for in Mr. C? I'll go first.
Caring. Vic, good points, lads. Love the pod. To be clear, I like Adama on Simon. Yeah, it's great to have a debate, and these comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
With anyone watching, having comments is creating debate for us. It gives us more to talk about, and if we're just sat on here agreeing for an hour, it'd be boring. So it's nice to have a bit of debate. So yeah, really thanks for joining in, Vic. Really appreciate that. Keep them coming. So yeah, in terms of Adama, for me, just to finish up that, and I hope he stays, as Vic said, a lot you guys want as well. I'm a massive fan. Here we go. Look, is Tyler a fireman? No, that's the wrong one. The Butcher's the fireman. I know that sounds confusing for anyone that's not watched before, but yeah, guys, I can't speak highly enough of Adama. I mean, the weeks before the Liverpool and the Man City game, I was sort of feeling like, let's just cash in, let's build. But you seen him play last night. I mean, other than Saiss, he was probably Wolves' best player last night. I thought it was really good, particularly in the second half. And when it's like that, you can feel like we can build on this kind of performance. So I think Wolves have got a really tricky month coming up. I think Wolves are going to be tempted. I think his head may be turned. But
so what would you do then? If I offered you 30 million for Adama that you're allowed to reinvest in the team this window, are you taking it, or are you keeping him and risk losing him on a free in 18 months? Because if he signs a pre-contract, it's curtains in anyway.
can I wait and see if Neto's fit in the middle of January first before I make my decision?
Well, even if Neto's fit, though, you can't expect him to come back in and hit the ground running, can you, after the injury he's had? You're talking, for me, end of March before you see anywhere near his best. So I don't really see Neto making much of an impact for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, my business head says take the 30 million, reinvest, but it's got to be better. It's got to be reinvested better than what we've done recently. I mean, Jose Sarr, great business. Ait-Nouri, great business. I'm not sure about the two low knees. I'm not sure about Hwang and Trincao. I mean, we're talking 30 million plus to sign them both. I mean, 35? Yes, that's going to be a lot of money for two players that don't improve the side.
If you look at the Silva situation as well, I mean, the Jota money, Silva and Hoover, straight down the drain. So are we at risk of doing that again?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Me personally, I would do everything in my power to keep him. I would give him the buyout clause. I'll give him a buyout clause of 50 million. If someone comes in for 50 million, you can go if you sign this new deal. Let's try and get another year out of him, because he showed last night his intricate game has improved. I love watching him. He's exciting. And last night, he looked like he was developing sort of his intelligent side of the game as well. So it's a real tricky one for Wolves, but we shall see. Great comments coming in. Sean again. Take it no-brainer. We have to sell to buy. True, but do I trust the incoming recruitment to do that? No, I don't. So, but it's a great debate, and hopefully we're talking about it because it means Adama's playing well. Let's go through a few more comments if I can find some from earlier on. Let's take some more questions. Didn't get a chance. Let's have a look at Ben. If Fosun don't back Bruno, can you see the likes of Neves wanting to leave their clubs and owners showing the lack of ambition? I think one of you guys said that earlier on. I think it was you, Knocker, that mentioned that. So yeah, you jump on that one for us, Knocker.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're a Ruben Neves now, your stock's high. You know, look at the past yesterday, you know your ability. You're probably the best player at the club. Is your ambition going to be to come from Porto to Wolves to sit in the middle of the Premier League, flirting with the bottom, maybe flirting with the top 10 every now and then? He's better than that, isn't he? So I think if we don't improve, I think there's going to be some big offers coming in for Neves. But I also think that's actually the plan for long term. I think we'll look to sell one big player at the end of every season and try and build on the back of that. So you'd assume Neves, maybe Traore this year, Neves next year, Neto the year after that. That seems to be the model that we're following at the moment. But
it doesn't make me feel very happy.
It doesn't me either, but that's where we are. I mean, if we all know what's happening with the Chinese market, if the government get their act in order and bring things back, allowing foreign investment, maybe we can get back on track. But until that happens, I think it's going to be a case of you're going to have to sell to buy. And if you're looking financially, those are your real big hitters now, aren't they? They're the ones who are going to bring in the money. If you're selling an Adama for 30 million and bringing in three players on the back of that, three young players who maybe develop, I think that's the model we're going to look at, definitely.
Cool. Thanks, Knocker. Going on to Sean's question. You can do this one, Tyler. A big shout out also for Semedo, who was definitely upped his performances. I mean, I think Semedo's been really good this year. 7.5, 8 out of 10 in games. I think he's improving as the season's going on. Tyler, what's your take on Sean's comment about Semedo?
I'm still not as convinced as you boys, to be honest. I still think there's a lot more to come from him offensively. I don't know. I just don't get all the hype on him, to be honest. I think he's played well and defensively he's improved. And yeah, again, that's probably down to the coaching and the way we play him. He's never really a threat going forward, is he?
Is it because of the... Sorry, son. Is it because of the boots that he's filling? Is it because of what we got from Doc every season? Is that why you're not really settled on him?
No, that's a fair point. I just think from a modern day wing back, I'd expect to see more from him in those offensive areas. He doesn't really seem to have a trick in him. Does he ever really beat a man, get to the byline, cross it in, pull it back? I know that's not necessarily our way of playing, but I'm a lot more excited when the ball gets out to Ait-Nouri because there might be a trick or there might be a cross coming in. I think he just plays it safe too much for me. I think he gets there, he turns inside. I think we mentioned it on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. There's no doubting he's a good, solid Premier League fullback. I just think there's more to come from him. I think there's more ability and talent there than he's showing. So that's just my opinion.
Do you think your opinion on that is a little bit harder because of the price tag he came with?
No, honestly, I'm not even taking that into consideration. You can't really. I mean, we do on Fabio and, they signed the guy from Barcelona. He's obviously can play. He plays for Portugal. Like I said, I like him. He's decent, but I don't really think he's anything more than decent. And like I said, I just think there's more to come, especially offensively. I think the West Ham game, he went on a run. I haven't really seen him do it, where he sort of beat 2 or 3. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is the guy. And since then, he hasn't done it. And I don't know, as we said on the podcast before, is it because sometimes Adama's there and sort of they don't really play that well together because Adama's taking that space?
I'm just going to jump in with. I mean, I haven't even got through any of the Twitter questions. We've been hammered with questions, which is great. So thank you everyone for contributing. I'm getting on as many as I can. Quick question. We'll go to you. You can answer one of these each. Then Knocker, tell me what Wolves should do in the January window. What they should do in realistic.
What I would like us to do, or what I think we'll do.
Well, Tyler's going to answer what we think Wolves will do, and you're going to answer what Wolves should do.
I would like a box-to-box midfielder, someone to really link the defence and the attack. I would like another centre forward, and then probably Fabio going out on loan.
I think that's quite realistic.
I think that's doable. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we should be looking at. Defensively, I'm not fussed about that. I think wide attack, I think we're okay. Central midfield, Moutinho and Neves, we know that they're quality, but we need something a bit different in there. I just want to see someone who can really get us up the pitch without a 50-yard ball, but more just taking us up the pitch, bringing the whole attack forward. And I think that's what I'd be looking for in the window. You're never going to do a great deal of business in January, are you? But I think 2 signings for me would be what I think that's
really realistic. Just jumping in terms of to end that bit off, the French market, particularly where Wolves are looking, that those teams with the TV collapsing are really struggling. There is bargains to be had. There is some good footballers there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves went back looking. I think Sanchez, I think he's too good for Wolves now.
No,
I think
that's
ship has sailed. But it doesn't mean there are similar footballers who are mobile and strong that Wolves can't get a look at. So just going back, give us a reality check then, Misery Guts. What are Wolves going to do? What Wolves are going to do in January? And yes, Tyler, I'm speaking to you.
Nothing.
I mean, he's not wrong, is he? But he's not wrong, but he could have put it a bit nicer.
I think Knocker's right. It's clear and obvious we need those types of players. But you're right, Knocker. January is not a time to do business. There was even an article about COVID, wasn't I? Read it this morning actually, saying that teams now more than ever need their squads. So fringe players that you thought, we could get him on loan, or we talk about Origi a lot, don't we, for example? We could get Origi, 10, 12, 15 million, be a great signing. Liverpool realistically aren't going to let him go, are they? Because if they get 2 or 3 COVID challenges, they're struggling, and they're the same as us. Who can they buy in January? The top teams want to keep the best players. So what market are you shopping in January? I think you're right, Ryan. France is a good place to go and get the talent, but I genuinely don't see us doing any incomings, to be honest. I think Fabio needs to go out somewhere abroad. He needs to go and play football games, so he might go out on loan. Do we convert Wang permanent? Like we said before, Neto, Johnny, if they come back, I just don't see it. I don't see anyone coming in, to be honest.
I think there will be some business. I'd be really surprised if they didn't get a centre midfielder. I think with just jumping on top of this, works well as what Sean said. Defence doesn't need looking at because of the AFCON is cancelled. That's bang on. So I think now we don't need to, because if Bolly's back fit as well, then Donga's a potential option. The back three look solid. They look fit. They're strong. We don't need to do that. And if they play, like I said, that 15, 20 minutes of the second half with that purpose of attacking, we don't need to be looking at that defence at all.
I think what could sway the decision as well, I think we're very, very close to getting football cancelled for a few weeks. So if we can come, if they're thinking there could be a decent break with football and they can get some of those injured players back, that may actually force their hand and think, you know what, we'll go with what we got and we'll reassess in the summer.
I just want to jump in.
Not his biggest fan, Ryan, sorry, but Gibbs White could be a body that we just get back to see us through the season. I personally think he's better staying there to develop the game and have a full season in the Championship. But are we going to go and spend 20, 25 million on a centre midfielder when we've probably got a 20, 25 million pound midfielder on loan at a Championship club? I don't know. I'm like Knocker with the focusing and the business and the spending. I just don't see it when they can bring him back either. I don't agree with it. I think he should stay there, and I still think we need another centre midfielder if he does come back. But looking,
you can see it coming, can't you?
I just don't see it. Yeah, it's
you
just
can see that.
Before we jump into a couple of comments, we at the Wolves Report have run a competition thanks to pairing up with Subs Bench. They make retro football hats in terms of, as you can probably see here, in terms of the style of Wolves and other teams. They're running a competition on the Twitter page on the Wolves Report. To simply enter, you have to follow the Subs Bench UK and the Wolves Report, retweet the tweet about the competition, and you're in. It's as simple as that. Family-run business, new enterprise going, 100% wool, nice hats. I will be getting one myself as well. So, yeah, if you could support them, retweet, get involved, that would be great. So, yeah, and they're Wolves fans as well. So, yeah, that would be really nice to support some Wolves fans.
Let's hope you win, Knocker. I bet your head gets cold this time of year, isn't it?
Livid, absolutely livid.
He's off. Son, there's an island developing on the top of your head, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Oh, no, boys. We're friends there, aren't we? Well, not according to the group chat.
The worst friends in the world, but yeah.
We've got 9 minutes left. Let's move on to the Chelsea game. Now, as you said, Knocker, I don't think these Spella games are going to... I think the games will happen tonight, whatever's left over. Then I think we'll have a break to Boxing Day. But we've got to preview the game just in case. Leicester and Spurs has been cancelled tonight. So, yeah, let's have a little look ahead to the game against Chelsea on Sunday. Tough game, but not an impossible one. I feel a lot more confident than I did this time yesterday. Despite how bad that first half was, I don't think Chelsea are in a great run of form. Yes, they've got some fantastic footballers and a tremendous squad, but I don't think that's an impossible game. We'll start off with you, Tyler.
Yeah, I agree, Ryan. I might be a bit deluded, but it's one I want to get a point out of at least, really. They don't instill the fear that like a City or Liverpool do, where they can just sort of destroy you. We'll probably lose 4-0 now, but they do give you chances.
Right.
You know, their wing backs are very high. There'll be spacing behind those full backs. Like you said, they've got quality players, but yeah, they just don't, for whatever reason, worry me like the other teams do. They haven't got a lot of pace in the side. If Lukaku's not playing, depending on how fit he is, their forwards are very similar. And I don't think they're the sort of forwards that we mind playing against. A lot of it is in front of us. We have a decent record against them, don't we? We beat them last year at Molineux with Neto's last second winner. So, yeah, I think there's points to be had. You know, it's a bit of a free hit. You know, I don't see any reason why we can't get anything out of the game.
What's your initial take on the game? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's just that we've beaten Brighton's under 23s or what, but I feel really optimistic about this one. I feel like we can. I feel like we can go and win it. I agree. I think that James plays almost like a wide attacker. I think they leave space behind. I think if we can play Raul, Podence, and Adama in a 3, I do think we can cause them trouble. And I just don't know. I just got a little sneaky about this one. I fancy us to win the game. I really do. And I think we'll set up the same way. We know defensively we're strong. So Lukaku's not really in any kind of form at the moment. They've got threats, like you say, but I don't think. I think out of the 3 teams, the 3 big teams we've faced in recent weeks, I'm not scared of Chelsea. I do fancy us.
Yeah. I think it's a winnable game. I think they're about where they are. I mean, still third best in the Premier League. You're a pretty good side. They've got some good players. They've got a good manager. They didn't win the Champions League for a joke last season. They're a really good side, but they don't seem like a side that's in a lot of form. Lukaku, I don't know if he's out. If he just can't get fully match fit, because when he was playing earlier in the season, they were flying and they were top, weren't they, for a little while? But they seem to have tailed off a little bit. So yeah, I think it's a gettable game, and I want Wolves to sort of, similar to West Ham, just have a go. And I know I go back and say this a lot, but I genuinely believe that the more positive Wolves are, the better we play. The more, when Wolves had the confidence to step out in the second half and press higher up and play more football, Wolves look like a totally different side. You wouldn't have recognised, if someone watched those 2 halves, they'd be like, they're 2 different teams. It didn't look like the same side at all. They were totally different. And the confidence, that goal, and it benefited us as well. I mean, with Raul on that side last night, we probably finished one of those chances. It goes 2-0. But, I mean, I'll start off with the team then. I mean, surely it has to be Podence, Adama, Raul, and if Aït-Nouri's fit. But equally, I was happy with how Marcel did. So, for me, it's Raul, Adama, Podence, Knocker.
Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, Marcel did do well, but if there's a choice between the 2, I'll bring Aït-Nouri back in. Other than that, I'm not changing anything at all. Raul naturally will come back in. Hwang, you know, he's done something to his hamstring, so you can assume he's going to be out for a few weeks. So, Podence, Raul and Adama in a 3. I think that works for us.
Tyler, before I jump in, yeah, all right. Someone says you're sitting there and you look like Eddie Howe. Check this out. Like, is that Eddie Howe at the back? We've got Eddie Howe in the butcher.
I don't quite know how to take that. I don't know whether that's like a good thing or a bad thing. To be honest,
are you tactically inept, or do you just look like Eddie Howe? I know Kieran.
We've probably got the same. Yeah,
Eddie Howe's pretty ugly, son. So
tactical genius, haven't we? Yeah, I'll take that. I've been called a lot worse in my time, boys.
On the group, and that's just on the group chat.
I know. That's from his missus.
So just go back to the game, and now we've got Eddie Howe and the Butcher on the podcast. It's just a nickname for me now, and we're all done, and I'm sure I'll get something pleasant.
I've got a few of them.
Yeah, I'll bet. So in terms of the setup, then we pretty much agreed on the same team coming back in. Now, I feel this sounds a little bit small time, and I don't want to say free hit, but I can't say it any other way. But it feels like a free shot. I think that game last night has taken the pressure off us. That if we lose against Chelsea, it's going to be like, oh, it's drop points, we shouldn't have done that, it's rubbish. No. They are a good side and they should be respected. But I think now it's like the pressure's off. And you could see that and I mentioned it earlier on, when we scored that goal, you could see a lot of the forward players then just believed again. So, I'm looking forward to it. I hope it isn't called off. I think it will be. I
agree. I used the word free hit when you asked me, and I think it is. And, there's a lot of talk about how we've got 24 points or how are we 8th in the league. We're in that position because we've beaten the teams, well, apart from a couple, in and around us. If you look at the games we've won, Newcastle, Southampton, Watford, we've won those games that Brighton, that you really want to win, and it's crucial that you win. Chelsea is a free hit, not expected to beat them. Anything you get from it's a bonus. Last night was the big game, and like we all said, that's the game where we had to get 3 points, and we did. We won't be, targeted on whether it's a good or bad season because we beat Chelsea. It'll be beating the teams in and around us, which will determine where we finish.
Yeah, it's absolutely a free hit. I mean, Chelsea is financially so far ahead of us. I mean, you look at the money they splashed out on Lukaku, we can only dream of spending that kind of money. So it's absolutely a free hit. But I think similar to the Liverpool and City games, where we've actually come close to stealing a few of them points, haven't we? So there's no reason we can't do that again.
Sean just jumped in.
Sean just got left, Ryan. I've got to take training at Newcastle in a minute.
They don't train at Newcastle.
Sean says you're not as fraudulent. Obviously, he's not seen the group chat either. But new nicknames are left, right, and centre. A point from Kieran before we jump on to predictions. We'll just have a look for the games to be cancelled now. Great win last night. Looked incredibly organised. Yeah, great point from Kieran. Organised. Wolves look really organised. That's the one thing you'd say. Even the lack of goals. Defensively, the shape has been nothing short of outstanding for a month or two now. It has been really good. It may have been a little bit too deep at times, probably a little bit adventurous, probably against Burnley and particularly against Norwich in the first half last night. But you build from the back, and he's certainly doing that. So I've got a minute left, boys. We are hard to beat, and that's a great quality. It wasn't the football I was expecting, but we'll take it from where we are 8th and on 24 points. First scorer and correct score for the weekend, Knocker.
I'm going to go 2-0, and I'm going to go redemption for Raul, I think.
Get in there. Tyler?
1-1.
Buzzing, so mate.
It's going to be called off. Go optimistic.
1-1 and Podence. Look, he's due a goal, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm also going to go. I'm going to go 1-0 Wolves, and I'm going to go Adama as well. Why not? Thank you for everyone for contributing on the Twitter page, Facebook, YouTube. We've had loads of comments. I'm sorry I've not been able to get everybody on, but it was been really popular. That so without your contribution, the show wouldn't be as interactive, and that's the part we really enjoy is getting questions to create debate. So thanks to everyone for joining. Thanks to Mark Knock. Thanks to Eddie Howe, and I've been Ryan Lester, and this has been the Wolves Report of the Wolves.